And welcome to the Matrix Report, episode 4 on the 28th of May 2017, and I'm your host, Danny Searle. And in this episode, the facts behind Manchester bombing and the death of the New World Order poster child, Mr. Zbigniew Brzezinski. So just before I start, I realised that the quality of this audio will be very bad because my very expensive Blue Yeti microphone that was only 6 months old died, and turns out it's a very common problem, and it happens to Windows and Macs. And what it is, it's the micro USB in the bottom of it just basically dies. And yeah, as I said, turns out to be a very common problem, and the people at Blue Betty basically say, suck it, you've now got a very expensive paperweight. So I've had to dig through my old junk box, and I found a it's a, what do you call it, a headset with a mic on it, back from about 2003. So look, it's the best I can do at the moment, because I certainly can't replace the Blue Yeti, and I don't think I would buy this again anyway, and all the other ones are even more expensive. So it is what it is. So please forgive me, but that's where we are. Anyway, the question we need to ask is, who benefits from the Manchester bombing? So on 22 May 2017, a suicide bomber blew up 22 young people. Most of them were young girls, okay? And he also injured over 50 other people with some horrific injuries. One girl had both her legs blown off, another had an arm blown off, facial injuries. Oh, it was horrific. I won't go into the whole thing, but it's quite grisly. Anyway, so of course this was at the Adria Grande concert, which, as we know, was attended mostly by teenage girls. So, you know, just the fact that they target that in itself is sickening and horrific. So the bomber, Salman Abedi, had been in Libya just 1 week prior to this attack, and there he met with his father and his elder brother, who both have confirmed that they have links with ISIS. So it's hard to ignore the fact that this event took place very close to the British general election, which will be held on the 8th of June. So over in Britain, there's Jeremy Corbyn, who heads up the Labour Party. He was rapidly catching up to the current Prime Minister, Theresa May, in the polls, right, just before the attack. But I want to put this into some context, so we need to just step back a little bit. So basically, in the last year or so, many elections have gone the way that no one would have predicted. You know, we have Brexit and Trump, of course, being the two big ones. So Theresa May's party are the so-called conservative Tories, the Tory party. But what they really are, they're at the heart of the British Empire, the City of London and Wall Street apparatus that run the world's finances, okay? They work for the royals and the elites, the aristocrats. They are the aristocrats, right? And that's who they represent. And at the moment, well, forever really, England, without doubt, is the one country in the world, next to Israel, I'd say, that has the most unaccountable and undemocratic elite ruling class. So that's Theresa May. Now we've got this other chap, Jeremy Corbyn, who represents the Labour Party, which speaks for the working class, I guess you could say, of Britain. So he's basically the diametric opposite of Theresa May and the elite ruling class. But that said, I've personally got some massive reservations about Corbyn. He tends to lead towards socialism and the Fabian society ideals. But look, whether you love him or hate him, he does represent the greatest threat to the British establishment in history. Okay? So to put this into perspective, when this snap election was announced by Theresa May about 12 months ago, Corbyn was 25% behind Theresa May in the polls. Now, that's pretty much an unwinnable position in any election anywhere in the world. However, a couple of days before the suicide bombing, he had clawed his way back and was only 5% behind. So Corbyn's running on a platform of renationalising private assets. So taking back the rail system, electricity company, the gas companies, you name it, right? Which of course will deliver much lower costing to the consumers. It'll push the prices right down. And he also wants to break up the big banks and set up a true national bank, right, which is no interest loans. And so he's doing this to try and reinvigorate the British economy, because like all other Western countries, its economy is collapsing. It's all by design, of course, by the big banks themselves. But anyway, he's trying to reverse that. So, of course, the people in Britain just love him. They just think he's bigger than Donald Trump there, you know. So, but like Trump and Le Pen in France and Brexit and everything, the media whores are flooding the airways with, oh, he's unelectable, the economy will collapse under him, the moon will fall from the sky, the sun's going to explode, don't vote for Corbyn, okay, because he's a threat. And the thing is, he's been running these massive public speaking events. You can see them on YouTube, right? He gets thousands of people at them. And he does these things multiple times a day. Like he'll do a talk in one area and then quickly, you know, drive to another one and do it again. And at each event, there's thousands of people. And what was funny is a video was leaked out of a Theresa May talking event where basically the media, working in cahoots with her, tried to fake the rally. And what they did is they showed a close-up, and it looked like, you know, it was outside, but it looked like, you know, there was a lot of people there. But what someone had done was standing well back, had taken a wide shot, and all it was 20 people crowded around her stage and around her, and the rest of the place was empty, and I mean empty. Not to mention, this place looked like it was in the middle of a cow paddock, right? It was in the middle of nowhere. So I think she's even too scared to go anywhere near where people might actually see her, right? Because she's more or less, since she's been in power, she's just destroyed what was left of the British economy. So she's not very well liked. Anyway, it's interesting. And it's sort of what Hillary did when she was there. Also, Theresa May has flatly refused to debate Corbyn, and I think that's because she knows she'll have her butt kicked, basically. She doesn't have any answers for him. Now, the day before the bombing, or the day of the bombing actually, she had the worst day of all in the polls and in the public eye, because she had to backtrack on a policy called the dementia tax, and this basically made her the first politician in history, I think, that's changed policy midway through a campaign. So during this backflip announcement to the media, she was flustered, she couldn't speak properly, and she was completely deflated, right? So even the media whores were wondering what the hell's wrong with her, and basically politically she was crashing in a big way. And then, dun dun dun, the bomb went off. Coincidence? I don't know. Let's have a look. So in Britain, they have MI5, and they're equivalent to the FBI in the United States, okay? And just like the FBI and CIA, MI5 have been linked time after time after time to these so-called terror attacks. Now, through a program they call the Covenant of Security, they have wreaked havoc on the people of the UK. They basically allow the world's terrorists to base themselves in the UK under the provision that, as long as they don't do anything to us, we'll guard them. Okay, because we may be able to use them later as a weapon against our enemies. That's the ideology, but it's insane. So basically what they've done is, they've just allowed the world's terrorists to base themselves in the UK. And in the latest report, just a couple of days ago, it's come out that there's potentially 23,000 terrorists living in the UK. And this is according to British intelligence. So that number again, 23,000 potential terrorists are living in the UK right now. Anyway, back to our bomber. It turns out that his family has been involved with British intelligence for decades. They were involved with attempts to assassinate Muammar Gaddafi back in the 1990s. And ironically, Gaddafi was the first Middle Eastern leader to basically blow the whistle on Al-Qaeda. And what I mean by that, he was the one to let the world know that Al-Qaeda is a CIA creation. And he did this way before 9/11, okay? And that's basically why they murdered him, because he wouldn't keep his mouth shut, among other things. Won't get into that now. Anyway, so when the United States, Britain and France all backed the Libyan revolution to overthrow Gaddafi, they openly funded and supported thousands of Al-Qaeda terrorists. And this is mainstream. You can look this up, right? So these terrorists flood into Libya and they take out Gaddafi. And in fact, one of those groups that were funded by the United States is now in charge of Libya, even though it's a hellhole, and he's under attack now by other groups, right? It's just dog eat dog there. But the guy in charge of Libya at the moment is a CIA puppet. I forget his name, Minstry or something like that. Anyway. And yeah, as I was saying, so after Gaddafi was killed, the whole place just went to hell in a handbasket. It was absolute anarchy. So you had these hardline factions within Al-Qaeda that splintered off from Al-Qaeda, and they formed a new organisation, and we know that organisation today as ISIS. Okay? ISIS. ISIS came from Al-Qaeda. They were just the really hardcore nut jobs in Al-Qaeda. And anyway, this bomber, his family are in the thick of all this, right? They're right in the middle of it. So Salman Abedi, the Manchester suicide bomber, comes from a terrorist pedigree that is not only Libyan Islamist, it's also a pedigree of British intelligence. So you couldn't get a better stooge or patsy for this job. So it looks like this whole sickening event really does look like a false flag. That's what that's turning out to be, as usual. And it could be as simple as just trying to derail the campaign of Jeremy Corbyn. So bear in mind, if Corbyn was to win the British election, it would be a complete assault on the New World Order, right? And there's no way the Rothschilds will allow this to happen, no matter what the cost. So if they have to kill innocent women and children, they'll do it, right? They're psychopaths. They really are psychopaths. And this should demonstrate to people that your ruling class, your controllers, the people that tell you what you can and can't do in the world, do not care about you. They don't care about anyone but themselves, right? In fact, they hate you. They hate us. They hate us. It's true. It really is. You just have to see what they do in the world to understand that. So we get back to that original question I asked. Who benefits? Who benefits from this? Well, Theresa May has now put forward a proposal for a global government to control the internet. Yeah, they want to impose huge restrictions on what people can post, share and publish online. And it would also limit search engines from what they include in their results and what sites it'll show or topics you're allowed to type in and all this sort of thing. And they're doing all this in the name of preventing terrorism and extremism. But of course, what it really is they want to control the internet and stop free speech. It's as simple as that. And of course, the other thing that Theresa May has done is she's now put troops on the street. So it's sort of martial law without full-blown martial law. Okay, it's stage one of martial law. And basically France has been doing that for the last couple of months. It's just become normalised now that you've got armed troops roaming the streets. And now Britain is doing the same thing. And, you know, it's all because they create this environment of fear. And so people always will give in to fear. So then they say, well, we'll put troops on the streets. And people go, yeah, put troops on the streets. That's great. Rather than go and round up these nut jobs, these 23,000 that are on the books, start with them. Go and round them up. Deport them back to La La Land, wherever they come from. I don't know. But, you know, restricting people's internet and putting troops on the street, that's just, you know, problem, reaction, solution. The Hegelian dialect, that's what that is, right? Now look, they might take the troops away. This might just be a test to see how people react to having armed, soldiers on the street. But when martial law comes, when the globalists decide now is the time for the final takeover, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see troops, probably foreign troops, but on the street with weapons. And by that stage, people will probably be so accustomed to that they won't even raise an eyebrow. They'll just go, oh, okay, it's for our own good. Anyway, the guy that blew up himself and all those people, yeah, he really did it, right? The event actually happened, yes it did, but what it is, these people are patsies. They're funded, given the equipment, probably had the bomb built for him by operatives within MI5, right? That's what we mean by a false flag. So yeah, they did carry it out, they did kill a lot of people, maimed a lot of people, but these are like what we call useful idiots. They believe in the cause that they're doing, and they're egged on by these spies, these MI5 spies and CIA spies, right? And if you don't think it happens in America, remember the underwear bomber they tried to get him on a plane. It was an FBI guy that was trying to get him on the plane. So the FBI, MI5, they're all run by the same group, okay? All of them. They really are. They really are owned by the same group, run by the same group. That's why they all share intelligence with each other, right? They make out like it's we're best buddies sort of thing. No, it's not. It's because you all work for the same company. Of course you share intelligence. Anyways, if you want to know more about all this sort of stuff, I've detailed all the players, their motives, their crimes, their history in my second book, The Truth Chronicles Book 2, Secrets of the Illuminati, which is available on Amazon. And you just need to put my name in the search and it'll bring up my stuff. So we'll leave that one there and we'll just have a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Zbigniew Brzezinski. So see you soon. Hi, and thanks for listening. Look, I'm in a real tight spot at the moment. All my meagre revenue streams have just dried up. I'm telling you this because I may be forced offline soon due to a lack of money and I can't pay my bills. So, if you can spare a donation, that would be great. Or maybe you could just buy one or two of my books, or you can even book me for a one-on-one consultation. Look, my YouTube channel has over 100 videos of free content, and I want to keep it that way. So if you can help, please use the links below. Oh, one more very important message. And welcome back to the Matrix Report for episode 4. So we're talking about Zbigniew Brzezinski, who died recently at the age of 89. According to his daughter, she's the one that announced it to the world. So you might be asking yourself, who the hell is Zbigniew Brzezinski, right? Well, you may be surprised to find out he has been responsible basically for controlling your life since about, 1960s? A long time. He's one of these guys in the shadows, right, that runs the world from behind the curtain. He's a big player, bigwig. And to give you an idea, he was a founding member of the Trilateral Commission, which is a New World Order organisation. He was a member of the Bilderberg Club, New World Order, as well as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, right, New World Order. So this is what we call the New World Order trifecta. To get Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, and be on the Council of Foreign Relations, you've got to be a bigwig. There's not too many people get that. One of the only other ones was like David Rockefeller, which was best buddies with Zbigniew, and Henry Kissinger is another one. There are others, but they're the real big, players. So to get membership in all those clubs, you got more power than any elected person in the world. So he was also, that's right, he was also influential in the Club of Rome, which is all part of this global warming nonsense. And what else? Oh, and NATO, of course. He was very influential in the construction or the creation of NATO. And of course, it's because he had this absolute obsession with Russia. He hated Russia with a passion. And I think that's because he worked directly for the Rothschilds, right? And we all know that the Rothschilds, ever since Nathan Rothschild didn't get his way back in the 1800s, they've wanted Russia wiped off the map. And, Zbigniew obviously was getting paid directly and answering directly to the Rothschilds, Jacob Rothschild to be exact. So he also was therefore was the one that created the whole Cold War nonsense, and which is still going on today. Like right now, today in the Democratic Party in America, they've got this whole nonsense going on about, the Russians, rigged the elections and the Russians did this and the Russians did that. This is all Zbigniew Brzezinski, and yes, he was very big. He was a top advisor to the Clintons, right? He's very big in the Democratic Party, which doesn't surprise me. But this is why they're still going on and on about the Russians, right? That's all because of this guy. And even back in the Vietnam War, there's the Skull and Bones group, right, which both the Bushes and John Kerry were members of. They basically handled the Golden Triangle drug trade through their CIA men in Vietnam. And most of the world's heroin basically came from the Golden Triangle until the 21st century. Now it comes from Afghanistan, which has become the largest producer under the US guardianship. But again, this was all due to Zbigniew Brzezinski and the CIA. So just a quote from one of his books. I've got a couple actually from these books. I've got his books, I've read them, and after you read them, there's no doubt that this guy is 100% globalist, in your face, doesn't even try and hide it. So this quote is from Between Two Ages, America's Role in the Technotronic Era from 1970. He says, "The technotronic era evolves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date, complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities." So he wrote that in 1970. Just have a quick think right now. Did that happen? Absolutely. We're living it right now. Everything he said in 1970, we're living it right now. Okay? Amazing, isn't it? And another quote. Actually, I'll do another quote from the same book. So he says basically, this is from Between Two Ages again. So people, governments and economies of all nations must serve the needs of multinational banks and corporations. The Constitution of America is inadequate. The old framework of international politics, with their sphere of influence, the fiction of sovereignty, is clearly no longer compatible with reality. The Trilateral Commission today is now global, with members from countries as diverse as Argentina, Ukraine, Israel, Jordan, Brazil, Turkey, China and Russia. And this is the other quote I just wanted to quickly do. This is from his other book called The Grand Chessboard, which came out in 1997. And I won't go through the whole quote. Look, he basically just advocates the policies of a predatory ruling class. That's what he's all about, okay? The guy is an absolute... he's a demon, if you want to use that term. Of course, as I said earlier too, he was best buddies with David Rockefeller, and Rockefeller died in March 20 of this year. So, and he was 101. So these guys live a long time, but we know Rockefeller died at 101 because he kept getting heart transplants. He had 6 heart transplants, right, in his life, and he used to brag about it, like he'd feel like a 20-year-old after he had one, And that's the thing, he would get like an 18-year-old Chinese prisoner, and they would rip their heart out and give it to David Rockefeller. That's how it basically worked. David Rockefeller was thick in with China. China today is a creation of David Rockefeller, basically. So that leads me to think now that I wonder, because these guys, their technology is so far advanced than ours, I wonder if they're really dead, or is their brain sitting in a jar somewhere, waiting for a 20-year-old body to come online. And I guess for me, the big trick will be Henry Kissinger, because Henry Kissinger, he's 94. He's still creeping around, still sticking his fingers in every pie he can get at. I don't know what it is with these people. They just can't let go, right? They could just go and buy an island and live there happily forever, but nah, they still got to interfere with day-to-day running of the world. Can't help himself. But anyway, Kissinger is like the last one of these old oligarch, henchmen for the New World Order. I know there's Jacob Rothschild, but he's above these guys. These guys were like the public face of the New World Order, if you like, the poster boys. So the last one really is Kissinger. So if he dies this year, then I'm convinced they've got some technology where they're, freezing their brains or transferring their brains. And you may think, oh, that's far-fetched. But as I pointed out in my second book, Secrets of the Illuminati, they've got this mad scientist, that's all you can call him, a mad scientist, who's basically come up with a method to transplant a human head from one body to another. And that's Dr. Sergio Canavero, Italian. And now he's even saying that he'll probably do the first one in the UK because the UK's got a better support system. So the only downside, as I point out in the book, with this head transplant, it can take up to 6 months before they can actually get up and walk around again, right? Because the body, the muscles would have atrophied, so they've got to jig the muscles and everything and relearn coordination because the cerebellum's got to reconnect. Cerebellum's what controls your balance, basically, allows you to walk. And so all that, there's all these little bits and bobs that are a bit of an issue at the moment they're trying to iron out. So I wouldn't be surprised if these globalist kingpins got their brains frozen ready for when they can do a brain transplant rather than a head transplant, right? Because they don't want to have their, raisin head, as in a, dried up raisin head face on a 20-year-old body, although they'd probably opt for it. They're that desperate. But I think they could just be in stasis now, waiting for when they perfect this technology, in a year or two probably, and be able to do a full trained brain transplant. And then we'll find out, because it'll be some long lost heir to the throne of Zbigniew Brzezinski or David Rockefeller has come out of the woodwork. Oh, he was this secret love child we didn't know about, and he's just inherited all their money, all their estate. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Okay, but that's how it works. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Sorry again for the mic. I won't be in a position to replace it anytime soon, so we'll just have to get used to it for now. So that wraps it up. Please support this show. Please make a donation, or, as I said, buy a book or get a consultation with me, and share it with everyone. Anyway, love and light, Danny.